Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope my audio is okay with this video. I am in a very strange place. I am in California City, California, just outside Edwards Air Force Base. And I wish I had looked up a little bit more about California City before I had decided to get my hotel here. Probably still would have anyway, just because it's the closest place to stay near the base. But it's a very odd town. The upside is I just took Bits for a walk, and I saw like in the wild actual prairie dogs because this is basically out in the Mojave Desert. So so yeah, interesting week so far. I've been teaching a class for a great group of folks over at the Air Force. Smart people, very technical, and yeah, so far really good. Doing a Linux Essentials class that I've been talking about on this video series. So this is the initial run of the course, and it's really gratifying seeing people learn Linux and Unix. It's just a really cool thing to see people who maybe haven't had a huge amount of exposure to Linux or Unix kind of get to play with that, and also sort of see people really develop the kind of interest around being in that kind of ecosystem in the world that a lot of us already kind of play in, which is neat. So that's the first thing. So I'm pretty grateful for that. And yeah, so what I was doing is I was looking for different kind of scripts and things to put together for potential projects in the last module of the course. So the idea is that it's generally kind of ramping up from basic commands to kind of more complex things, to talking about functions in the shell, all sorts of just kind of normal kind of shell scripting stuff, kind of building, and then basically the last day of course is mainly going to be about shell scripting. And I always think that the best way to learn how to go program, whether that's with scripting in Bash or Python or C# or whatever it is to have a project. So what I was looking for is like some different kinds of projects that I could kind of put together. And I think I've got some good ideas. This is not the actual project itself that I'm going to be talking about, but it was just sort of like a little kind of script that I threw together, kind of playing around with the idea of what to kind of use for a potential script, right? So basically, this is a little script that I put together for kind of gratitude stuff. Which might sound like an odd idea, but if I could make my font a little bit bigger, it might be too big. Let's go make that smaller. That's probably about right. And I go ahead and do a VI in my bin gratitude reminder.sh. So this is just a really small little shell script that I wrote, where the idea is that gratitude is something that I think most people are kind of aware of at this point, but they've done a lot of studies that show that if you take time out of your day to be grateful for what you have, as opposed to constantly be thinking about what you want, it tends to be very good for your mental health, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, or just you're kind of you don't have any of those particular issues, but it kind of raises your baseline, right? So it's a really useful thing. So one of the things that I thought about kind of putting together was a little script that you could go kick off when you first log into your window manager or whatever it is, that would remind you of things that you're grateful for, or ask you if what you're grateful for, make you think about it, some kind of reminder. So I put this little script together, and I thought I'd basically just sort of talk about what it effectively is going to do. So basically we get this function which is get random number of minutes. So basically it takes in the number of hours as an argument. And if that's not specified, it sets the number of hours to 3. So that's just sort of the default interval. So it's going to basically pick an amount of time up to 3 hours. So then what I do is I assign the value of OpenSSL rand4 piped into OD with a couple flags on there just to go ahead and basically get a decent random number as a value. So if I go ahead and just grab this, I'll show you what that looks like in terms of output. I can just throw this in here. You'll see that this gets a big number, and it's pretty darn random, and that's a really useful thing. That's definitely you want to have actual real random. Whereas if I echo $random, which is a shell built-in variable, it's a lot smaller number set, first off, but also it's not true random, so you see a lot of repetition. Whoops. You can just tell right off the bat like how much more random. But you get a lot of repetition in the sort of number set, so it's not really true random. So the idea is, if you take a number, right, and you basically divide it by a number, the remainder is going to be basically equal or less than that number if you include 0, right? So 0 means it goes in evenly. So in Bash, we use a modulus function to get the remainder, right? So if I do echo, let's say 100 modulus 22, right? Not enough parentheses. I never do enough parentheses with math. So if I go ahead and do that, you get the remainder, right? So basically the idea is that 22 doesn't go in evenly. There's 12 left over, right? So if I go ahead and do 10, right, or actually, well, 20 is fine. You can see that the remainder is 0. I do 25, right, remainder is 0 because it goes in evenly, right? 26, all right, we're going to go ahead and have a remainder. So the idea is we're going to have effectively the modulus is a really good way to limit the number of responses that you get back. So if I go ahead and do something like random divided by 26, it's going to give me some random number within the range of up to 26, right? So it's not going to exceed 26. 26 is the max that we could potentially have. Right, so that's fairly decent, but you see like right there, for example, we got a duplicate 17s and duplicate 11s. That's because it's not really as random as one would hope. Whereas if I did the same kind of thing, if I do echo, right, OpenSSL ran 4, right. So if I do this, right, and then I take that and I say, oops. That number, modulus, 26. Yep, one more. Oh, because I'm being weird. That's not doing math. We're just getting the value of that. It's been a long day. Been lecturing all day. So if I repeat the same thing, you can tell right off the bat that this is a lot more random. Right. So that's the first part of the script I think is interesting. It's just because it sort of exposes random number stuff. But if we go edit the script again, you can basically see that I'm just going to take the hours plus 1 because you basically want to include 0. So whatever the number is plus 1. For 0 it gives you up to that number, including that number. And then basically what I do is I basically take that random number and I divide that by the number of hours, with the minutes. So basically the total number of minutes. All right, so that's going to give me the number of minutes back. And then basically what I can go ahead and do is set timer to equal to the get random number of minutes, right? So in this case I'm saying 1 hour, and I've been playing around with this a little bit, so I'll tweak it down so it's more seconds as opposed to minutes. But what I do is basically just do timer is equal to timer times 60. That bumps it up from seconds to minutes because effectively it's in seconds initially. And then all it really does is basically just sleeps for whatever timer is going to return, and then basically pops up a little notify send, a little dialog box in the graphic. So if I go do something like this, quit out of here, I go run this, reminder. Basically, it'll take up to 1 minute, and then it'll go ahead and give me the response of like saying, hey, what are you grateful for? And it's kind of an interesting idea. With the Awesome WM, it uses, I forget what the name of the, I think it uses Naughty or whatever it is. You can see the little tiny little message over there in the right hand corner. With other window managers, it's a little bit more prominent, and I might change that to something that's a little bit more obnoxious to really sort of grab focus. But I thought it was kind of an interesting idea, and I wanted to kind of point it out as a good example of a small little project that you might do. So that's not a big giant shell script. It's a fairly little small script, but it does one kind of specific thing, and I can kind of use it as sort of a seed. And then what I might go do is I might grow that a little bit more, right? So I might decide to go change it. So, I have sort of a coin flip function where when it pops up the notify, it either reminds me to be grateful of something, or maybe it asks me to be grateful of something. And then once I have, I'll take input for a number of times. I'll have like a file that's full of, potential things that I'm grateful for. When it tells me to be grateful, maybe it pulls a random entry out of that. Just an interesting little kind of thing to go play with, right? So it's not a massive kind of program, but it's one that I think is fairly interesting. So yeah, maybe try to go ahead and find a little thing like that. If you got any idea for small little cool projects to kind of play around with, any suggestions sort of your equivalent of a gratitude script, let me know. That'd be a cool thing to be able to go ahead and see for what other people are interested in kind of doing. So with that, let's say luck. Well, I thought it was this block. We'll just do term. So, I didn't mean to do locate. I meant to do locat. That's why. So let's go change that back to SM block. So, thanks. And I appreciate you guys watching. Sorry for missing the last video, by the way. I appreciate you guys all coming back and watching these videos. If you haven't checked out the channel before, jump down there and subscribe. If you like these videos, give it a thumbs up. And leave a comment about what kind of tiny little projects you think might be cool. I've got the end of class module that we're going to go do some bigger things with. And I'll talk about maybe some of those scripts a little bit later on as potential projects for you guys to take on. But yeah, be grateful. Be thankful for whatever you got. Work on your skills in your scripting game and all that good stuff. And I hope I'll see you guys in another video, and I'll be back on Sunday, hopefully for real this time, because I've missed a couple videos at this point, but I think that should be over and done with now that the sprint to the finish of this new course is over. So thanks again for watching. I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.